Everybody, I'm Chad Brock,
And I'm Zach Bailiff.
and you are watching the Orion podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back, Orion Podcast, episode 5. We made it. You've made it 2 weeks since you last heard from us.
And they haven't fired us yet.
They haven't fired us yet. Lucky you. Lucky you. Oh, man. So it's finally starting to warm up, man. Got out and did a little proper bassing over the weekend.
It actually hit 60 degrees here today with no snow on the ground, so I was happy about that.
They can't beat that at all, man.
The Colorado big game applications were due tonight. That's the deadline. So got all that taken care of and money spent, paperwork filed.
I resemble that statement. I purchased my stack of fishing licenses over the weekend for out of state, and it was hefty. I felt that one. So
yeah, it hurts the old wallet a little bit. Definitely lightens it up.
It does. It definitely does. But, I'm ready to go. We got the end of the month. We're heading down to Chickamauga, and we got the big USA Bassing Classic. Been a while since I've been to that one.
That'd be a good time.
It's going to be a good time. Not been to Chickamauga either, so I'm going to be learning.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
New part of the Tennessee River area. I'm be watching the pro tournament this weekend, seeing how all that goes. So,
right.
Well, let's jump into this. We can talk about fishing, turkey hunting all day. But it's not time yet.
Different topic tonight.
We're going off-road. We're getting off the road. We're going to get dirty. We've got a couple guests tonight. They're adventurers in every sense of the word. They've custom built their Jeeps to fit their needs while traveling cross-country, living full-time out of it. They're competing in off-road races, found themselves based in Iowa now, working with Brownells. I mean, Instagram famous for sure. I'm not this Instagram famous by no means. I mean, without further ado, Yeti and Yolo.
Hey.
Welcome to the podcast.
Wait, it's this way. Call him Yeti.
There we go.
What's up, fellas?
Oh, not much.
How are we doing?
Excellent. Thank you for having us on.
Well, thanks for taking time away from that rust bucket of a Ranger you've been grinding on.
It's getting lighter by the moment.
Just shaving weight.
The question is it built for tough, or is it just tough to work on?
I'm telling you what, taking the fire wrench to take everything apart on it. So I just it's rusty.
Less headaches that way.
He takes on challenges like people just take on showers every day. It's just he puts himself through the gauntlet every time we decide to do a build and go on a trip, and I guess it's just part of the challenge and the adventure of it.
Well, I think when he's dreaming it up, he's like, what is the hardest possible thing that I could do, and let's make it harder than what it should be.
Yep.
And while we're at it, let's put a time limit on it. Like, I got to have it done tomorrow.
I think we may be froze on their end.
Uh-oh.
We're going to talk about
that Iowa internet.
Yeah, Iowa internet. We may have to talk about turkey hunting.
We might. Now, Yeti's in the middle of a 30-day build on a what is it, a 90s Ford Ranger?
I believe so. Let's see.
Looks like they bounced out and going to get back in, maybe.
Yep. I've got them paused down here. So let's talk about some turkey hunting, man.
Yeah, we can do it. We're waiting on season to come in. Season to come in. I'm in the middle of one bow build right here, and ordered another one yesterday. So I'll be in the middle of 2 bow builds and trying to feel them out. They're a little bit different. Feel them out, see which one I'm gonna hunt with this year. But depending on when the other one gets here, this is likely going to be the one that I'm chasing birds with. So.
No, I was coming back from the lake Sunday, man, and gosh, there were some strutters out in the field, and it was crazy. Oh, it looks like we got them back. Let's add them back in here. Back to the podcast. That's enough turkey hunting. We'll be back with that at another point in time.
Why, hello.
Well,
hey,
hello,
there he is.
guys.
I don't know what happened. Technology, right?
Yeah.
Dude, it happens all the time, believe it or not.
Weird glitch.
That's fine.
You got it.
Hey, this is a live show, and before it's over, guaranteed will all be it's always a glitch. Okay, so obviously people follow you guys on Instagram, a lot of people, and you're known as Yeti and Yolo. But these are just nicknames. So give the people the spiel. I think we froze again.
I think we did based on Yolo's
we froze
face.
again.
It's hard to tell because Yeti's just like stone face.
Yeah, he is just there. All right, let's go back to turkey hunting. Back to turkey hunting. They'll be back. They'll be right with us.
Oh shoot! No, it's gonna be fun chasing birds with a bow. So hopefully the weather straightens up. It's been up and down like it is every spring here, but it's just dragging on longer this year than normal.
Yeah, and I think, it looks like here we're looking at a cold week, and then I think after Sunday they're really showing it's going to flip over, and I think you'll start seeing a lot of stuff moving. I mean, there were some guys saying they was hearing them this past weekend, and that's part of it. That's part of it.
Yeah, I just wish season wasn't quite so late, but
here
it seems to be the way some of these eastern states are.
Yeah, Indiana's always very, very late in the season, so that's just part of the things we face. And being a fisherman, I think makes it even tougher because I'm out on the water, so that doesn't really dedicate any time for that kind of thing.
Right.
So looks like we might have Yolo back.
Yeah.
Welcome back again.
Hey.
Let's see if you're back on, Yeti. We're trying to figure it out. I don't know what's going on, but man.
It happens. It happens. The first couple of weeks I had issues and I had to get a Wi-Fi extender for down here in the dungeon. So
yeah, I'm like, well, we have Wi-Fi and it runs all of our stuff normally pretty good. I don't know if it's just this platform or if it's just our internet is like going crazy. I don't know.
It's hard to tell. Maybe with both of you live streaming at the same time or something. Maybe that's
strange.
There we go.
There he is.
All right.
Yeti's beautiful face.
My God.
I know. I missed that face. Come on.
All right. Let's jump back in. Zach, I'm going to let you take the wheel.
All right. So anyway, the world basically knows you guys as Yeti and Yolo, which, started out as, I'm sure, nicknames. Yeti's nickname for his rig, and they just kind of, you guys stepped right into that identity as you kind of gained some popularity on the social platforms. Kind of, how did all that come about?
Yeah, that's a good question. My gosh, it's been a lot of years now, probably 10 years. I built the first Jeep that I eventually became known for building, and that was the OG Jeep called Yeti. And what ended up happening at that time is I'd show up to like off-road parks or events and stuff like that, and people recognize the Jeep, right? And they'd yell out. Before too long, now my mom calls me Yeti. My little brother calls me thinking about changing my name to Yeti because I don't answer.
Yeah, may as well, right?
Yeah, and I think just my tenacity and everything I do kind of adapted that same, banner for a name. So I get after it when it comes to
the stuff. The persona fits for sure.
Now, being the awesome fabricator that you are, kind of take us back to how this initially got started for you, Yeti.
This whole wild ride. That's another really good question. What a lot of people probably don't know, and I should probably share that story a little bit more. There have been some cool articles about it, but it's a good place to talk about it. Was I had injured myself pretty terribly in like 2000 in a BMX racing accident, and what ended up happening was lots of nerve damage, muscle, bone, stuff like that. Left my left arm completely paralyzed and kind of clubbed and pinned to my chest for a lot of years through a lot of different surgeries and experimental type rehabilitation stuff. And the original Jeep that we just talked about, the OG Yeti, was the result of me just finally getting to the point where I didn't want to give up. I was a blue collar dude, worked with my hands my whole life, outdoorsman, you know. Losing an arm and a little bit of other stuff really took away a lot of that spirit I had, you know, as a go-getter. But eventually, a buddy of mine picked me up and took me for a drive in his little Jeep and kind of turned my mindset around. I think it was like 3 days later, I had bought an old crappy beater Wrangler, and I think it was 90 days later, I had come out of the garage with the OG Jeep called Yeti, and a whole bunch of muscle atrophy had reversed. I started getting movement in my hands and stuff like that. So it's just been a crazy, crazy snowball since then.
Well, safe to say that rig's not going anywhere.
It's gone a lot of places and it ain't leaving.
Right, that's for sure. Well, how about you, YOLO? The name, how'd it stick?
Oh man, that honestly is kind of just a name that people started to call me on social media, and it kind of fit the lifestyle and direction I was heading in life with just doing things my way. So one thing led to another. I just go by YOLO, and every brand we work with and everyone down to now, even my parents call me YOLO at times. So yeah, it's just been it's funny because people either really think of the attachment to it, to the word YOLO, or just say, oh my gosh, were you born as Yolanda? And I'm like, sure, Yolanda. Yeah, I look like a Yolanda, right?
That's funny.
It's kind of fitting. Yeah, and so if you think about the Jeep background, that was my first off-road vehicle that I learned how to do everything, changing tires, changing oil, anything like that. Learning how to drive a stick and everything was my very first Jeep. So when me and Yeti met, it was through the Jeep. So that's kind of part of our really big part of our history, I guess you could say.
Yeah, well, how'd that all happen? I know a little bit of the background on it and stuff, but for everybody else, like, how'd you guys kind of meet up and decide to attack life together?
Go ahead, Yeti.
Oh my goodness.
I always like doing that part.
Tell us the story, Yeti. Now, come on.
Perfect with that. My goodness. So all those years ago, like what I was talking about, kind of coming out of my injury and stuff like that, Instagram was kind of new, and I was scrolling through it and just, my goodness, I remember scrolling on my phone, sitting in the garage, working on my Jeep, and seeing like a silhouette of a pretty gal, like shooting skeet or something next to her Jeep, and it happened to be her. I stopped, I looked at it and thought, BS, this chick isn't out doing this. And she kept popping up here and there, and I quickly realized that everything that I was into and thought was rad, this gal was living her life, doing the same stuff, you know, building the same era Jeep, out doing stuff on the weekend, having a good time and wrenching on her stuff. So shoot, my goodness, slid into those DMs.
You're ridiculous. Yeah, we just kind of became adventure partners after that and just kind of chased our dreams. It's what we started to do, is built long conversations before we actually physically met. It was everything that we had shared with each other that you don't share with other people, you know, those intimate conversations about what you dream of in life and what you really want to chase, and all these years kind of wasted and what you would regret as an old person wanting to do. So we just said, let's just do this together. So we just kind of jumped on board and made it all happen.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah,
right on.
It was exactly
that all happened out in California, right? That's where you guys kind of started.
Yeah.
So at that time I was posted up in Southern California, like San Diego area. And then YOLO was up in Central California, where she was born and raised. So up in the Central Valley, like the agricultural part. So it was pretty awesome. I mean, at that time, like going back to scrolling past that first picture, I saw her shooting her shotgun and hanging out by her Jeep. She might as well have been a world away. In my little circle of life, there just wasn't gals like her running around. You know what I mean?
So, yeah. Well, and at the time, I mean, growing up similar to what we did, traveling 2 hours was a big trip, back in the day.
Right.
And anymore, it's just kind of normal, especially for a lot of what you guys do now.
That's true. That's true.
Drive 2 hours to go get a sandwich.
Yeah, it was good because I ended up moving down to San Diego. We moved into a tiny house cabin for about 1.5 years before we decided we could live in a little tiny space. It was 446 square feet. So it was a little space, and really gave us that opportunity to pare everything down and just minimalize life and live with our simplistic setup that we needed. And then at one point we were just like, screw this. We're tired of living in the big city. We're tired of all the traffic and the cost of living here. Let's just go live on the road for a while. So we just kind of closed up shop, put some stuff in the like a little storage cache, and we just hit the road with what we had and kind of just made fun with it. And it was cool because how that started is we started to adventure and do traveling. I had never done desert. I was always grown up within the mountains, and so I always thought the desert was like not a good place that I liked. And then we went there for the first time, went to an off-road event, King of Hammers, and I fell in love with the desert. I was like, what was I thinking all these years? I love the desert. So now it's like my favorite part to go whenever we go back to the West. But what we started to do was going for like a weekend and then going for a week. We would pack for like 2 days and see that we could be on the road for 2 weeks and just figure out what we need and where we could wash our clothes, where we could do showers and things like that. So we started to learn how to live on the road and how we can move around. So that kind of helped us. And we just said, we can do this. So we just kind of, and actually it was funny because when we got rid of the cabin to start living out of the Jeeps, I decided to do my first off-road competition. And that was the Rebel Rally. And so that was a big deal. And I remember Yeti, we got the Jeep all set up and he was like, we live in this Jeep. You can't break it on this 10-day course. You have to keep it together. You bring the house back. And so I was like, okay.
Yeah.
Out of the trailer in between. And then when I came back, I was like, well, I lost the shock and I lost this and this, but still running.
Did you at least bring the shock back with you so that I can put it back on there? Oh man. Yeah, I think about that when we go out for a week, just do a weekend trip, and I'm like, man, I don't want to break anything. I gotta take this thing back home, but I'm not living out of mine.
No, yeah, it's not easy, and people don't understand. We go on long road trips, like what we're preparing for right now, doing the Nora Mexican 1000. It's going to be how much? 1,300 miles.
Yep. In Baja.
Right. Yeah. Not paved road.
Yeah. Right. Exactly. Going down to Cabo, back to San Diego, and then going back to Iowa. We have to have everything come back. So it's like, we have to have everything.
That's the fun
It's not easy.
You could load it on a trailer and haul it down there and be fresh, or we could try to do a 7,000 mile trip and run 1,000 in it.
So when you guys are doing this, what are some of the challenges that you do face, when you're trying to live on the road like this?
There's all the obvious ones, right?
Right.
The things that just pop up, broken parts, unforeseen weather events, change in plans, things like that. And really after years of living full time that way, and then just kind of that being our style of travel now. And if we're going to go do something, we usually pack it into a few weeks at least. It comes down to the ups and downs. It's just like everything else in life, those things wear on you, and the highs get you really high and the lows get you really low. So with the people that we've met over the years, a lot of times people just don't have that endurance to go through like those kind of weather those storms on the road, especially the unforeseen stuff. We've been in situations where we've almost lost our rig to a river crossing, out solo, and had to recover and rebuild transmissions and do all this stuff on the road. So to us, I think the hardest thing is also the best thing in the trips. Those are the type 2 fun moments where they suck in the moment. You're not smiling and laughing about it, but it's the only thing you talk about at the campfire,
Exactly.
So
makes for the best stories. I think that was around the time that I started following you guys. Probably was when you buried the OG Yeti in the Green River in Utah. Full transmission flush and everything once the 2-ton trucks pulled you out.
Yeah, what ends up happening is it makes you better at what you're doing. You get real familiar with your equipment, your weaknesses, your strengths, things like that. And if I had to boil everything down to why do we always go and make it extra hard on ourselves, I think it's part of the evolution of this experience that we call life. For us, it's like it gets stagnant when we're not challenged, when we don't have something big and epic to look forward to and work towards and hustle to get to. So I think I'm wired.
That 100%.
I'm wired wrong, man. I just want that.
Now, Yeti, for you, there's a whole nother side of this living on the road thing, and it's kind of developed into some mad cooking skills.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't miss a meal, so I had to learn to cook.
So tell us a little bit. You've got, I mean, you're putting out a cookbook. I mean, tell us a little bit about that.
Man, it really comes down to, like I said, I like to eat. I enjoy that part. And I think for Yolo and I, when we were living full time on the road, it was the one thing that I could really provide that it was something really grounding in our life, right? Around the campfire, we'd sit down and have a rad meal. If it was something like pheasant or something we had gotten the day before, things like that, it was really important to us to be able to eat well and enjoy that. That kind of evolved into when I think back of our travels, I often think of the meals that we had with the locals along the way, and it tells a story and it also shares our memories together. So we'll have a meal that will remind us of North Carolina of, summer of 2018, things like that. So after a while, developing those meals turned into a thing where I'd share them with my friends or around the campfire and stuff. Trying to put it on paper and share that, right? Proper. So
yeah, for sure. No, campfire meals are sometimes they just taste better, especially after a long day of eating dust and
it's nice.
It is so true.
I mean, everything's better on open flame, honestly, right? You guys
absolutely
fish and stuff like that. Fried food's good. I mean, there's a place for everything, but if you got to boil it down to one thing in life, how are you going to cook the rest of your meals for the rest of your life? I'd say an open flame is the way to go. So
absolutely.
Second best is a smoker because I love that Traeger.
Yeah. It'd be hard to get me to give mine up too.
No, he fires that thing up in the summertime and it's going all summer long. All the food's amazing. I mean, that's the reason we got together. It was funny because I didn't grow up as a cook or learning to cook. We've had this conversation many times. I grew up eating fast food, not good food, frozen food through college, just junk. I meet him and he makes the most insane food. It's like straight to my heart, to my belly. So, I mean, his food, we would be on the road and I would look in the fridge and be like, babe, we have nothing. We have this random ingredient, this, and this. And he comes up with the raddest meals out of almost nothing that I don't even know how his imagination comes up with these things. But he always makes insane food out of almost anything. It's phenomenal.
It's always a joy to see what he comes up with when you guys are out on the road. You mentioned the fridge. What's this is a cooler podcast. What's it like, food preservation and maintaining all that, fresh ingredients and everything while you're out there?
I mean, really a lot of it comes down to our style of travel where we like to forage in different areas. So like in the Southwest, I know where some sweet white sage grows on a hillside that we can pull and dry and use as a seasoning, and it tastes a lot like the Southwest to me, mesquite and things like that. So we think a lot about local gathering of food, if it's hunting, fishing, and foraging. And with that comes you got to be able to travel a little bit with some of the perishables. So coolers are bitching. We're probably the king and queen of making stuff last in a cooler. We know all the tricks. Getting the air out of there, putting towels and not opening them and planning when you open them and things like that. So
we had to. We were living in the desert in super hot temps, and we're like, how do we keep this cooler from eating ice every other day? So we learned tricks, and a lot of them came from boaters. Actually, like people that live on boats have a lot of really good tips and tricks for ways to pack a cooler and fridge, and that was really where it saved us. Little tricks like that we learned just absolutely helped save our food for days, way beyond when we first started. We had our little cheap Coleman.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, cooler technology is insane, right? I mean, the coolers that are out right now, it's amazing what you can do if you treat them right and you pack them accordingly, things like that. And it comes down to how you prepare your food. I mean, if I and was at a campsite for more than 2 or 3 days, I'd build a second campfire and a bed of coals and do like some cold smoking. And if we got some fish or some meat recently, I would pre-smoke that and kind of cure it lightly so that we can eat on it for a few days and stuff like that. So a little tricks came out, you know, a lot of seat time and a lot of my belly gets pretty often.
I sympathize with that wholeheartedly, for sure.
Well, it sounds a lot better than gas station food in the morning. That's for sure.
Yes, it does.
A few weeks. Real quick, like, this ain't so good.
Yeah, well, I don't think you could survive on the road that long eating that kind of, gas station food and fast food joints. It wouldn't end well.
It doesn't end well. Doesn't end well.
So Zach, not to jump in there, but I think that's actually how we kind of met originally when Yolo and I started to take competing in like adventure competitions and things like that seriously. We got linked up on nutrition and fitness and things like that. So
that was around the time we kind of collaborated a little bit on that. You guys were getting ready for the 24 Hours of Uwharrie race, and I've been following you guys for a while, and a good buddy, Randy Hines, put us in touch, and we kind of went through some prep and what you guys need to do to get ready for that grueling, intensive race that you guys are getting ready for.
That competition was gnarly, physically, mentally, vehicle, everything was taxing. And that really, 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 really helped, because they call it 36 hours, but really it was 3 full days of just like hardly any sleep, just total physical exhaustion, total mental exhaustion, just insane. That was really helpful to have you on board for that.
Yeah, no, I was glad to be a part of it. It was fun to see you guys, work hard and dedicate the time and get yourselves ready for that, and then go down there and put on a good show. The territory down there is as grueling as anywhere else in the country. So it was,
I feel like this is the time I should talk in the low voice and do a Zach advertisement for Zach.
That's good.
Well, I have been known to write a training program or two. So
a couple of them. They're pretty good too. For anybody that's looking, hit Zach up. Here's his email address. We'll flash that across the bottom of the screen. Quick reminder to our listeners tonight that everybody's out there. We'll be looking for 5 questions for Yeti and Yolo here soon. Keep them coming. We want to hear them. 5 questions. Also, good reminder, now's the time. We're killing some time here. The Orion podcast is powered by Jackson Kayak. You can learn more about Orion coolers and Jackson Kayak at jacksonkayak.com. Back to your show.
That sounded pre-recorded.
It felt pre-recorded. I just needed to record that.
Yeah. Yolo, your rig. No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I'm looking at the screen, trying not to look like I'm judgmental as I'm listening to his.
Everybody at home's judging us right now, so don't feel bad.
Yeah, not a problem.
You get a podcast.
It's distracting seeing your own face on the screen. I'm like, I'm not trying to look at my own face. I'm trying to look at your guys'
and you're backwards.
Yeah,
that's what gets me. Is you're backwards.
Yeah, it's
so
weird. I'm like, oh, this way. Wait, this way.
It drives me nuts.
The OG Yeti, the OG Yeti obviously gets a lot of love, but Miss Tina is her own star of the show as well. Where did the name for Miss Tina come from?
That's funny. I was actually right around the time I met Yeti. I was living with my best friend's parents for a little while, and her name was Tina. And I remember we took a drive to the coast one weekend, and I said something about driving Miss Tina, and we just had a really good time and really connected, and she's really like a second mom to me. So something about the drives and driving in that Jeep and us going on a girls trip, that became her name, Miss Tina.
That's awesome. It's always good when there's a good story behind the name of the rig.
For sure.
You guys met up, sold the house, took off on this road trip. How long I remember it was over a year, but I don't remember the exact. How long were you guys on the road full time living out of the rig?
Shockingly, it was exactly 500 days. I don't even know how that happened. We didn't plan it, but the day we actually stepped foot and had an actual bed under a roof, I added up the days. I got like a calendar thing and let's put the day that we were done out of the cabin and the day we got there, and it was exactly 500. I don't know how that worked out.
Wow. It was a run. Not a hotel room or nothing. 500 days in a tent in a different part of the country. We camped and wheeled the Atlantic, the coast, the Pacific, the Sea of Cortez, all over. It was amazing.
It was mosquitoes about this big. Everywhere we went in the South. Yeah, it was good times.
So when you look back at this whole, like all these adventures, I mean, what are some of the places? I mean, I always look back and I have fond memories of specific places. What are some of the places that have stood out the most to you guys over this span of time?
There's so many epic locations. Baja has been amazing. No matter how many times I go to Baja, I immediately want to go back. So they got big ones. Yolo has some amazing spots that we've randomly found, like City
City of Rocks in New Mexico. Love that place. It's like we have Baja in the Southwest. We love the Pacific Northwest to go into the redwoods and do Oregon and all that. We love places like Utah is a favorite place because there's all the wheeling and outdoor stuff you can do there and epic scenes. We love going to North Carolina, Tennessee area. Yeti keeps talking a lot about the Appalachian Mountains lately. So that's kind of another interesting place we really like. And the only other part of the country that I still have yet to see, but Yeti grew up there for a short time, was the Northeast. So that's an area I really want to check out at some point.
Well, if you guys get over here to if you guys get over here toward the Bantam Jeep Festival at some point in Pennsylvania, you give me a call because I want to meet up.
We need to. We need to.
Oh yeah.
So we obviously places that stand out. You gotta ask the next question. What's the bucket list? What's the bucket list trip?
Man, we're
Australia.
Australia.
Yep.
But we actually have a bucket list that we're getting ready to knock off in August. We're going to be heading to the Arctic Circle. So
wow,
that's a big trip. And it's a lot of years in the making. I built that. I don't know if you saw the big LMTV build. I partnered with Biltwell to build. So a retired military, and we set it up as a chase truck to, help 10 humans survive as far north as we can go. They're going to all be riding. I think we partnered with Harley Davidson to get some of those Pan Americas, and we're taking off in August. I think we're finally due to go with the crazy world we're all living in. It's been a couple years.
I think we'll be like about 20 days total on the road for that trip. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
that truck turned out super cool. It was such a unique build.
It's
so awesome.
Completely inappropriate. It gets like miles.
It's terrible to drive.
But when you need it the most, it's amazing. I got to take it down to Baja last year on a solo run and chase the guys that were going to be on bikes, the guys and gals. And I'm telling you, I'm like 50 miles from a maintained road, buried in my belly by myself in a 18,000-pound truck. You start questioning all the things you've done in your life.
That'll test the nerves a little bit.
But being the truck it is, and how inappropriate it is for like these insane long road trips, it's so stellar in that situation where you're incredibly buried and to have no business being there alone. The truck gets itself out. It has some really rad options. I pushed the dump of the air on all the tires out of the CTIS, put it in a 4-low mode, and that thing walked out of the sand like it was nothing. So give and take.
Kind of your inspiration for that build was some of the Dakar race trucks and stuff too, right?
Yeah.
Those things are phenomenal.
I've been a geek for that, right? You see some giant rig cooking through the desert at like it has no business doing that. But like I said, our truck's super slow. It's just meant to go.
Yeah, those Dakar trucks do not look like they follow the same laws of physics that most things in the world do. Like semi-sized Baja trucks.
Exactly. They're definitely a dream rig. But with that mindset, what I wanted to do was make the truck that everybody that served in the Army that hates those trucks, they said they were the worst thing they ever rode in. I wanted to make it as smooth as possible. So I hyper focused. I teamed up with Icon suspension and built a really badass suspension for it. And it's the smoothest riding slow truck in the world. The thing, 25.
if you're gonna go slow, you may as well be comfortable, right?
Well, that thing, we drove it on dirt roads, and that thing's smoother on dirt roads than it is on paved roads. It's just such a smooth ride.
It's epic. We partnered with there's a company here in the Midwest that builds some pretty rad, like military, aftermarket stuff for military rigs for civilian use. Did like a cab bag system for the cab on it. So it's running, like triple shocks and airbags and limit straps. So when you're sitting in it, it's ridiculously smooth. At times, I act like I'm in the Dakar Rally, just doing.
It takes the old air ride seats on Papaw's tractor to a whole new level.
Yeah. Definitely.
Papaw's tractor didn't have air ride. What are you talking about?
Well, maybe that was after I started working at the tractor dealership.
Apparently, you ain't drove no Farmall, man.
Yeah, well, the Massey Ferguson didn't have it either, I guess. Being on the road that much, how is it for you guys finding campsites? I know you're on public ground a lot.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you're kind of looking for? I know what we look for when we're in the backcountry, but what, for you guys traveling, it's a little bit different. What are you looking for in campsites when you're out there?
Yolo's a wizard at that, at looking at dispersed camping and public lands. She has her ways. I just kind of give her an idea on, how much further I can go or what the expectations are for the night if we're pushing hard on a big road trip. And my goodness, we've woken up to some pretty incredible spots that you had no idea you were pulling into at night, but really it's the undeveloped stuff, right? That we're all looking for. It's that little hidden gems that you find where there's nobody else out there. So I don't know, Yolo, what's your trick?
It's funny. I get asked that a lot, and they think there must be some crazy app or some program that is some hidden secret that I somehow know of and nobody else knows of. It's Google Maps. And honestly, and people are like, well, what's the trick? I'm like, I just zoom in, I research, I look up where we're at, the areas, and I zoom in on the map, and you find little things that pop up, and something catches my eye, and I end up just finding a good, awesome spot. I mean, City of Rocks that you mentioned earlier, Yeti, is one of my absolute favorite places in the whole country. And it's just a random little tiny state park in the middle of New Mexico that you would never know exists, but it happens to be 30 miles off the main route. And that's how you find those sweet places. Is something off the main route somewhere. And if you're willing to take that extra 30-minute drive to get there, you're going to find something pretty sweet compared to something that's 5 minutes off the main route. So that's probably my biggest tip right there is things like that. But honestly, we freestyled everywhere we've gone. People are always like, what day you're going to be where? And it's like, I don't know. We know we need to get to San Diego by this date. We're going to figure out the route as we go. And that's just the way we like to roll. Because some days we might get an 8-hour shift in, some days 10 hours, some days only 6 because we had fun at the campground that we found the night before and spent the morning making cool food before we left or something like that. So it's just always different. But I have had pretty good luck finding some pretty awesome places that usually when you look at Google Maps and you look at the pictures people have uploaded, you're like, I don't know what this place is going to be. And usually you have to take a gamble. Sometimes it ends up being terrible. Sometimes, most of the time, ends up being some awesome place, but nobody has ever uploaded any good photos of it. So you'd never know. And I think that's kind of the fun and secret to finding those spots.
I'm glad I'm not the only person that does that. I've Googled boat ramps around the entire Midwest doing the exact same thing, just trying to find this little place or that little place. And some of them don't have, and some of them are a little sketchy.
Hey, I'll tell you, sketchy. Go to Kentucky and you'll find some sketchy places to call camp.
Oh, I know. We know well. Very well.
Yeti's got some real good stories about a place we found there one night in the middle of probably 2-3 in the morning. We were just exhausted. We're like, all right, we're camping here. There's nothing to it. We got to sleep somewhere.
Well,
you got
it's a whole new world.
Now.
It's a whole new world. The people who are awake.
It's on you, Yeti. You got to tell us the story now.
Yeah. Well, we were in Kentucky and we were pushing through on a hard night. I think it was post one of our competitions down in the South. So we were we were pretty taxed, right? You know,
we were on the way there.
Oh, well, we're on our way. Okay.
Yeah.
So we're pushing to get there. And we were in an area that we just happened to never have been in, on some back 2-lane road in the middle of the mountains. And at that point, I do remember as we were creeping and winding through the mountains, I would see a lot of like historical markers, right, from Civil War and things like that. So it had a pretty crazy vibe in that area anyways. It was just super old and historic. And Yolo found some campground, like the only one for like 80 miles, right? No pictures or anything online, but I knew immediately it was going to be an issue when it was a 2-track onto what appeared to be like an old battleground. At like, what time of night was it? It had to be midnight.
No, it was later. It was like 2-3 in the morning. It was something crazy where we were like, it's really late. We just need to get a few hours of sleep.
You couldn't make it up. It was handwritten signs on broken pieces of like pallet wood, nailed to trees every like 300 yards, and you would just touch them in your light, and you're like, what the? And it was an arrow at its campground, and it just kept going. And we pull into an area where it like a holler that opens up, and it's just single wide trailers from like the 40s that are on
a couple boats.
Got them up on the hill.
Yeah, and they're just it's a holler.
Yeah.
A holler. And there was one light post. It was like a telephone pole in the middle of the field that had like a flickering light on it, and it had a handwritten sign that said, what was the guy's name? Do you remember?
Call Joe. I think it was Joe.
That's a call.
Call Joe when you show up, and it was $10.
Yeah, it's like
$10 to camp there, and you had to call Joe.
3 a.m. We've already just like did like 45 minutes of trail ride to get into this place. I'm not waking Joe up. We're gonna put the money in, and we're gonna be real obvious, like parked right here, and we're just. Oh my gosh, that was the wrong decision. Wrong. Oh, no. So right about the time the old beater truck coming like sideways down the 2-track, just on fire, guys lighting it up, and Joe wasn't happy. He wasn't happy we were there. Didn't want us there. About yanked me out of the Jeep. Long story made longer.
He for one, just to give you guys a visual, he was in jean overalls with no t-shirt on.
That
like
sounds right.
A hefty dude. Pretty backwoodsy.
Built like a gorilla.
He must have been deep in the Cumberland area.
Yeah. I'll tell you what, the guy had genetics on his side. I was like, yo, this guy is out of control alpha right now. You know, barefoot, calluses like 3 inches thick. Dude never wore a pair of shoes, and he didn't want us there.
He was wondering how we got there. We're like, you're on Google Maps. Like, it said campground open. It had hours and everything. We thought we were fine.
It was amazing. So let me set the scene for you. Where that light pole was, and it's like called Joe. You brought up old boat ramps. There was a boat ramp in a river that ran through that area, and it was probably had to be 35 years since anybody maintained the place. So it was super overgrown. Like the bathrooms were basically a cave of vines to go into. It was unreal. It was out of a movie. And we look like we're in a spaceship. I'm in an all-tube buggy with like a rooftop tent. It's all like raced out with graphics, and I got this pretty blonde hanging out. You know, there's not even doors on the damn Jeep. She's hanging out the side of it. I got all my camping gear with me. And then the nail in the coffin was the California license plate on the back of
a California plate in Eastern Kentucky. I'm assuming at this point we're in Eastern Kentucky, just based on the setting.
There's no doubt.
Yeah, he didn't want nothing to do with us, and we finally negotiated to the point where he was going to take our $10 and we were going to sleep there, but there was no way my rooftop tent could stay on my Jeep. It needed to be in the grass around the corner. I'm like, you don't understand. It's part of the vehicle. We're just going to crawl up there and go to sleep. So that was amazing.
He was like, here, come here. I want to show you where you guys can put your tent. And he walks off in the dark with Yeti and a flashlight. And I'm thinking, he's never going to come back. Like, he's going to go off and kill him. Like, what do I do?
It was
they come back out and he's trying to explain to him like, no, it doesn't. Our tent doesn't come off. It's he just kept saying your fancy Jeep, your fancy setup here. You can't do that. And we're like, no, you don't understand. We can't
It's
put the
attached
tent on the grass. It's attached. Where do you want to park? He just couldn't get it to his head.
It was a random stop in a random place, but when the sun come up and to explore, like it was a boat ramp in an old like shut down campground from 30-40 years ago, and it for some reason somebody kept updating that crap on Google, and Yolo finds it of all places.
Well, yeah, he got to the point where he told us we can't pee on the grass, we need to pee in the bathroom. You go to the bathroom and it was the worst building ever. I mean, there's no way you can even walk in there without 10 layers of cobwebs to go through it. I went around the corner. I'm like, no, this ain't happening. no.
So as soon as the sun came up, man, I'm telling you, we folded that tent up and we got out of there. And when we rolled out of there, I realized we had actually gone through a bunch of historical battlegrounds and stuff. It was really amazing. But places like that carry energy. It's just it had a crazy energy in there, and that dude was just holed up generations deep, and you have two wacky people like rumbling in like a cammed V8 at like 3:30 in the morning through the holler. I wouldn't want me.
No.
Right?
Yeah. I don't blame the guy, honestly.
It was awesome. But those are just like the small little random obscure adventures you get into on the day-to-day basis that kind of like wear you down over 500 days straight without going indoors and sleeping in a regular situation. Kind of changes you a little bit, makes you open to all kinds of situations. So
absolutely. You guys did that trip. Yeti got a new heartbeat during that trip. You got the he's gonna do this to me.
Here it is.
That time. It's that time. It's now time.
They've been asking, where's the music? It's here.
They make me do this. It's time.
Make me do this.
They do. It's
Are you gonna start singing?
No, nobody wants that. Nobody.
We'd get pulled off air real quick.
Yeah.
Your Chad singing.
For sure. It is time. It is time for 5 questions here on the Orion Podcast. Tonight, coming to you live from YouTube, Nick Brummett. What is your favorite meals to go to when you're living out of the cooler?
Favorite meal out of the cooler?
Favorite meal out of the cooler?
Something grilled, I'd say bacon wrapped medallions, some venison wrapped in bacon over a skewer on the fire, just barely hit the flame with it, a little salt and pepper. I'd say that's a pretty tasty meal out of the cooler.
Okay, 2-part question. He wants to know where to get one of the cookbooks.
Oh man, those will be available soon. They're not out yet. I'm still hustling to kind of finalize all that, but I'm hoping by the end of the year.
But tell them about your trail dust.
Yeah, I do have a spice line coming out too. That's inspired from the regional places that we've traveled. So
I'm down. I want some.
I'll make sure you guys get you the first sample batches out and kind of tell me what you think. So the first one, the trail dust, is going to come out. It's going to be Southwestern inspired. So a little bit of that white sage I talk about, and then chili tippin is a pepper out of Mexico. I think it's also Texas state pepper. I could be wrong, but so it's got a little bit of spice, smoky. I smoked the salt myself, smoked the pepper myself, and it's bitchin'. Tastes like the Southwest.
Oddly enough, question number 2 is going to come from our guest, Jason Cassidy, out there in the wide world of Facebook. He wants the waypoint to that place in Kentucky you all talking about. He wants to go fishing there.
That's so good. Right. I'm going to see if it's saved in my maps.
Yeah, if we could post the link.
That's awesome.
There's a drop pin with a skull and crossbone on it. It's probably Joe's fishing hole, and that's why he was pissed I was down in there.
Oh, I know there was some kind of treasure he was hiding. He was very skeptical of us, that's for sure.
I'm just glad it isn't my feet that he's hiding down there now.
He didn't want us searching around, looking at anything. It just
probably one of the treasures that the DEA spots with the plane overhead.
I'm sure.
Yeah. So, again, question from Jason Cassidy. He's got 2 tonight. He's got 2. Is there any place that you've camped besides Kentucky that's so sketchy that you would never go back?
My goodness, there's some zombie apocalypse spots in the desert of the Southwest that you just don't want nothing to do with. Where legit, there's whole towns that are just vacated. You could go through suburbs of houses, hundreds of houses. That we've stopped and explored those areas. The sun goes down. I'm not laying my head on a pillow. I have no business sleeping there. So, if you ever get a chance, look up Salton City, California. That's a good one. That's just a huge, giant man-made lake. It's the size of a sea, and it's just vacant. Film Walking Dead there.
Nice. Question number 4. I guess, yeah. It's number 4. Ford Bronco. Will it ever happen? Will you kick the Jeep for the Ford Bronco?
We will. Wow, we will never kick the Jeeps for the Bronco, just for one point, because we love both those Jeeps and there's no way they're going anywhere. We've had this discussion many times. Sell Miss Tina, we can get something out. Heck no, I'm not selling Miss Tina. Okay, I'll sell it. No, I don't want to sell her. You sell Yeti. Hell no, I'm not selling Yeti. You know, it's gone back and forth. It's gone back and forth.
He was quick on this.
We just decided, nope, we're not getting rid of either one of them. We both love them too much. So unfortunately, that will never happen. Will a Bronco happen? Gosh, I hope so. I've been driving those things for a year now. Well, almost a year, since last summer. And just for your guys' reference, I do pro driving for Ford and drive the Broncos at auto shows and on trail rides, and give consumers, media, and VIPs experience rides and kind of teach them the features and everything going on with them. So I have a lot of seat time in them, but on the road, personal use, absolutely not. So do I want one? Yes, I do. I love those things. There's a huge weight on them, so there's no way I'm ordering one anytime soon. It's just not in the cards. It doesn't make any sense right now, but getting the amount of seat time I get with them, that's where I'm like, oh, I get spoiled.
For sure.
Let's just throw this in as question number 5. I feel like this is a good segue into question number 5. Perfect year, Bronco.
First gen.
First gen.
Yeah,
no contest.
No contest.
Yeah.
and the thing about the first gen is they're iconic, completely stock with little steel wheels, and like they're epic, right? They look like the gym teachers from high school driving that little stock Bronco all the way to full tilt builds. They're bitching. So
yeah.
But I'm fond of a lot of them. You know, the new one's pretty awesome if you wanted a daily driver that's super capable and refined and well mannered. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. But I learned to drive a stick shift in Dad's '86 Bronco too.
That's awesome. That's cool to hear.
Yeah. So we have.
We have. Oh, go ahead. I was gonna say, we got a Bronco too. He's trying to get rid of that thing, and I'm like, no, I love the Bronco too. You can't get rid of it. It's like a little baby.
Yeah, they're neat. They're a neat little vehicle.
Yeah, they're just fun. Little short wheelbase, super nimble. I'm a big fan of the things you can creep around in the woods and get in and out of, and not too obnoxious. And that we purchased that little Bronco too. It was just a really nice low mile, like survivor from an older Boy Scout troop leader that only used it to haul canoes, right? So it was a super cherry little Bronco, but it turned out being Yolo's perfect hunting rig. Super quiet, small, not real flashy or anything. You could park it at a trailhead or at a hunting spot, and it's going to be.
Oh, it's perfect. Well, it's the only vehicle out of everything that we own that was actually quiet and didn't scare off everything the second I pulled in. So
yeah.
So, I'm fond of them all. I'm a bit of a guy that likes the oddities, right? Even though I have each are super popular now and things like that, I still kind of like the obscure vehicles. Give them love. For God's sakes, I'm building Ford Rangers of all things,
Well, let's not forget one of the first builds that happened when you landed where you are now was the old Honda.
Oh yeah, the CRV.
Hold on, we got to close this out. That has been 5 questions here on the Orion podcast. Thank you for all your patronage.
The world famous button.
I think he enjoys those buttons a little too much.
He loves it. When you hit this button at the end of it, it's the people hollering for Jerry Springer. But I've never made it that far. It's Amazon.
Good.
If anybody wants one, you can get one there. So anyway, back to
the
real talk.
You guys did this monster trip, and whenever you come off this, you had some massive support from some awesome companies, which made a lot of the stuff you guys did possible with gear and equipment and all that. Then you land at Brownells.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of, around the time we connected, we talked about that a little bit. Was the idea for Pete's ADR build what brought you guys to Brownells ultimately?
Yeah, long-term wise, we needed a place to like post up and build some stuff. But originally Brownells was our first brand partnership for when we were competing, right? So they were our lead sponsor in those competitions and things like that. And living full-time on the road and then trying to prepare, like just fitness, nutrition, things like that. Although we try to eat well and be physical and do stuff when we were traveling like that, it's hard when you don't have a real routine, So initially with Randy and the other crew and everybody that got us linked up with you, it was just we needed somewhere to post up for a few months during the summer and kind of get set into a routine where we could accomplish our goals realistically. So initially Brownells was that. And then Pete's just an awesome cat. We became quick friends and stuff like that, very like-minded, and a really awesome just what if conversation was had with Pete and myself and Yolo. And it was like, well, of all the things you've learned as far as vehicle-based adventures go, if the sky was a limit, what would you do? And we boiled it down to like, well, a JKU, love them or hate them, it doesn't matter, had a lot of the things that I thought was a really good starting point, like the chassis, straight axle, solid axle front, the size, 4 doors, things like that. And all the things that aren't good, like the powertrains in those years were just notoriously crappy. So, I mean, ended up with a high horsepower LS3 and things like that. But Pete was game. He said, let's build something and let's build the ultimate adventure dream rig. And that still to this day is something that we're always evolving and kind of changing. We're getting ready to massage it and build like the ultimate hunting platform where it'll be stacked, where you can have a shooter's platform and drivers and run IR and nods and all kinds of cool stuff off of it. So it's just been an amazing opportunity to express myself, through fabrication and then the adventure side of our life. Well, the things we've learned and got to do is cool to see manifest in a vehicle, right?
Yeah. That thing gets set up for that, because I know in the beginning that was the whole idea was Jeeps and AR-15s have a lot in common. Love them or hate either one of them,
Yep.
They're big kid Legos. They are what they are. You bolt on them, make it what you want it. You wanted to be able to do that with the ADR and set it up for a trip to Baja or take it and set it up for the a hunting trip. You guys get it set up for night vision and IR and that stuff. It needs to go to Texas on a hog hunt.
Yeah, that's exactly
what exactly.
Doing all kinds of fun stuff. Yeah, you said the AR thing of it. It really was the modularity that I wanted, just like a AR platform. Is I wanted something that it is a big kid's Lego, something that if you want a tool for the job that does one thing, you said hog hunting, you can make an AR awesome for hog hunting. You could do all kinds of stuff with it, and that's what that Jeep is. That Jeep is an expression of that, where initially Yolo and I built the ultimate overland travel rig out of it, where you can self-sustain for 30 days off that thing, where it generates its own power and it has its own onboard water and filtration and all this other stuff. We flush that out. We know that Jeep is fully capable. It's been all over the place. It's done everything we wanted it to do. And now it's the hunting setup. We're going to make it so that same body that I have on it, when I initially built it, I had the foresight to make it so that I could clip it out, set it aside, and then set the hunting rig on top of it. And it's the same Jeep. So we're going to go that way with it. And then we're going to do, I think the third and final variant of that we forecasted would be more like a urban type zombie apocalypse fun rig, right? Where it just looks the part, is the part, and does all those kind of things too, where it's like the 14-year-old me super stoked to drive around.
For sure. Is it gonna, that LS3 is pretty rowdy. Are you gonna have a stealth mode for the hunting setup?
Yeah, when I built it originally, I built in you could flip a switch and you can go to a hush mode, or you can go to open open header, you know, at the foot of the switch to let it breathe if you want to let it eat. But
rattle your innards.
Talk to Pete. He's so conservative. The hush mode on it is too loud, so he's like, hush. Because this thing scares stuff away from
miles. He needs like 3 levels down from that.
It's hard. It's a rowdy engine, you know. So just like everything I do, though, that was a handful of years now, and I learned a lot from it. And I look at it and I think, man, everything changes, right? Technology changes. Application for the tools that you have change as you grow and evolve as an outdoorsman, and that Jeep is a great variant or example of that, because that's what we're doing now. You know, when Pete and I sit around and Yolo have these conversations, we often talk about like, hey, what if we do water sports out of it? We want to start doing more fishing out of kayaks, things like that. Well, we want that Jeep to be, we just clip the kayaks on and we take that Jeep to go do a fishing trip, you know. So I don't think it'll ever stop. The nice thing about building a Jeep like that is it's timeless, as long as you're willing to kind of wrench on it here and there and make it work. So,
yeah, they take a little TLC, but they'll get you where you want to go. And
yeah,
they're a memory making machine for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, they are.
Smile factory for sure.
Yeah, smiles per gallon, not miles per gallon.
Yeah, nowadays especially.
I still call them adventure machines for a reason. They're like, oh, my vehicle or my truck. I'm like, no, it's your adventure machine. You know, takes you everywhere you want to go, and you treat it right, it'll go just about anywhere.
Yeah, it is. It's a catalyst for adventure for sure. Vehicle-based stuff is fun. I mean, you don't have to be a gearhead or uber into off-roading and stuff like that we do to realize that your pickup, if you got a Tacoma or something out in the driveway, that thing is a tool. It's the vessel that gets you out to the hunting spot or that rad fishing spot, or, you know, even just cross country
camping or whatever.
Yeah. So it's a fun era that we live in, where the availability to outfit your rig to go do these things is pretty phenomenal.
Absolutely.
Now, one of the questions that we typically like to ask our guests, and it's kind of a fun one, especially this will be a good one, especially for you guys, with social media the way it is, and the accessibility that we all have in today's universe, metaverse, as we should probably call it. Do you ever think about that? We're talking about Legos, and that's what kind of hits me on this. I'm the kid that played with Legos, and, you know, do you think about that kid that's out there playing with the Legos that stumbles across your Instagram page, sees what's going on, and then aspires to build? I mean, you guys ever think about that kind of thing? And what do you tell that kid? I mean, as he's, you know, starting to get interested, and he's seeing it through you guys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm a big believer that, you know, we got to make blue collar cool again. You know, when I was growing up, that was cool, because the dudes I looked up to were wrenching on their stuff, and they were going out and kind of making a living for themselves with their hands. In the last 10, 15, 20 years, I see it kind of the youth go away from that. That's not as cool as it used to be. So for me, a lot of the reason that I put so much hustle on social media is I want people to see that we hustle so that we can go roam and we can go live this lifestyle. I put in the hours up front so I could take the hours off later, right? So for the youth, that's something I think we should all kind of focus on and make cool again. I want to see kids going to shop class. I want them to be working with their pops on the weekend on the pickup or the Jeep or the whatever, and getting out to the fishing hole or the hunting spot with them. So it's important. I think there needs to be more of that. I know Yolo, the young females, they really look at her because she's out there doing what is primarily a male dominated activity, right? You know, pro driving and all this off-road stuff with firearms and fishing and all this other stuff. It's really inspiring to see the young females look up to her and ask her questions and kind of follow her lead too. So
yeah, absolutely. I agree. It's what you say about the youth today. It's quite scary. You know, I go to the post office here in town, which is literally like 3 buildings down, and just walk over there. And it's just super tiny town. But you go to the counter and the lady's complaining because a high school kid walked in and tried to mail a letter and didn't realize it costed money. didn't realize they needed a stamp and didn't even know where to put the return address. Like they don't even know that kind of stuff. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what is our youth like learning these days? They're not learning just some of your basic things to go through life. But if you hand them a phone, a 4-year-old can show you all kinds of stuff with apps, right? So it is scary. And yes, I don't have any kids, but I think about that kind of stuff and I'm like, where are we going? We need to just continue to inspire to get people outside and to just work with your own hands and create and build stuff and work with your resources. Everything that Yeti talked about. So very similar to how I feel about it, is just continuing to inspire that side of things, not the whole look at me, I'm taking pictures of myself a million times. It's more of sending a positive message out into the world, because there's so much negativity nowadays, that keeping it on the positive side and continually encouraging and inspiring other people to go and chase their dreams and do what they want to do. And I think that's part of a big message for both of us on our platforms.
Yeah, you know, I think with the emphasis on, and I know it was kind of, it was beat into me a little bit growing up as everybody, you need to go to college, you need to get a degree, rather than learning hard skills and the blue collar jobs and things that are, frankly, they're going away now. Because I mean, the kids coming out of school don't have the skills or don't have any interest in going into those areas, and we're starting to see, you know, those services that blue collar jobs provide cost a premium now, because there's not as many people doing them, and the guys that are doing them are, you know, in the retirement phase, a lot of them. So it's,
and I think that's
the educational.
I think that's a good place to tell people that you went to school to learn to pick up heavier stuff. That Baylor personal trainer email address below. Sorry, couldn't help.
Yes, I have an exercise science degree, and yes, I don't really use it.
To learn how to pick up heavier stuff.
Yeah, it's served me fairly well.
It has. It has.
That's funny.
Oh, my goodness.
I can get elk back to the truck now, so
that's better than most of them. Better than most of
them. So that is, we have eclipsed our hour. Then I hate to. I feel like we've got so much more to go.
Oh, yeah, we'll probably have to do another one later, especially after they do their trip to the Arctic.
Yes, we guys come back after your trip to the Arctic.
Absolutely,
sounds good.
I think that's an important thing that we want to discuss. I think that's that fits our storyline with we're a cooler company telling even cooler stories.
There it is.
With that being said, tell Yolo go first, and we'll go to Yeti. Tell the people where to find you guys and how to access your abouts.
Where am I? Yeah. No, if you look on Instagram, The Wild Yolo, you'll see the same name on anything. I think I have, what's my YouTube? Is it The Wild Yolo?
Yeah.
Yeti? I think it is.
There, yeah. And I think on TikTok even. You'll find her everywhere. And I'm the same way.
Yeah. We have all the same names. So The Wild Yolo is where you'll find me. And we have a website, yeti-built.com. So you can see whatever swag things that I put up on there, other videos for builds and all kinds of different things on there too.
Yeah. So the man called Yeti on all social platforms, easy to find. And one of the best ways to find answers or to your questions or the backstory a little deeper would just be Google Yeti and Yolo, and you'll see all kinds of, there's been some fun documentaries and where we've really shared a lot of the vulnerable parts of our lives and things that made us get to the point where we wanted to sell everything, give it all away, and hit the road and go on a big adventure. So, man, it's been a blast.
Well, we appreciate you guys coming on and spending your evening with us and the viewers that have listened and are going to listen to the Orion podcast. They mean a lot to us, as I'm sure they do to you guys. We are going to put you guys down below. Just hang out.
Hold on. Yeti, let me see your hands. Do you have wrenches in your hands right now?
No. He's ready to
go. Okay.
He's like ready to run.
That's probably the cleanest I've seen him in weeks. So it's pretty good.
We're going to pause you guys for just a second. Me and Zach are going to say goodnight to the people, and we'll be right back with you. All right.
How about it?
There we have it. Episode number 5. I didn't get one single message tonight that we were fired, so that's good.
Always a good sign.
That's always a good sign. We've made it 5 episodes. Episode number 6 will be coming to you live this month on the 19th. We have Canoe, Kentucky, Nathan and Allison Deppenbrock. They will be coming on. We're going to be talking about what it's like to build a family business in the outdoors with the Deppenbrocks. Great people, great shop, and we're excited to have them on, man.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be cool to talk to them and see what all they're doing to kind of get the community involved down there and kind of build the culture that they built down there.
Yeah, and they've got great community outreach programs and several things going on. It's going to be a good story to hear the history and see how they do things. But yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight, folks. And we appreciate you. We appreciate all of you hanging out. We appreciate the comments popping up there on the screen. We love you. And we'll see you next time.
Sorry, man. Later.
Yeah.